What up is Marcus Dynasty Football Dads? We are going through the Monday Night Football game. Man, that was a fun game. Of course, I almost said Oakland. Las Vegas Raiders 33, Baltimore 27. And by the way, if you're new to the channel, please subscribe. We're going to be doing some more giveaways here. And if you want to be part of the DeAndre Swift free jersey giveaway, all you have to do is be at least $1 donator on Patreon, which is in the description box here. Lamar Jackson. Lamar Jackson had an 18-point fantasy game. You could really tell that the offense was having some issues jiving here. And part of it, I think, is the sole focus is take Lamar out of the game. And I think that's going to be everyone's kind of viewpoint at this point. J.K. Dobbins, Gus Edwards, even last year, they were good running backs. And this year, they were supposed to be good running backs. Latavius Murray getting closer to the end of his career. And then you get players like Le'Veon Bell, who has not touched the field. But then you have Tyson Williams, who we'll see how great he is. He's still an undrafted free agent. So we'll see. But let's just go through Lamar, 19 for 30, 235. He averaged about 180 yards the last half of the second part of the year. Marquis Brown actually looked well, which was 6 targets for 69 yards and a touchdown. And Sammy Watkins, Mr. Week 1, always Week 1, 4 catches for 96 yards. I'm not really going to be trusting anybody in this pass offense. I understand that they still had 235 yards. Mark Andrews, disappointing. 3 catches for 20 yards on 5 catches. I think Mark Andrews is going to have a better games as we go along, but you're going to get these kind of 3 for 30, 3 for 20, and then you're going to have some of these games. He's just, I feel like when you talk about the top 5, which when we talk about those, it's Pitts, it's Waller, it's Kittle, it's Kelsey, it's Hawkinson. I think Andrews just doesn't have that elite yards upside. You're not going to get 100 yards and a touchdown out of Andrews. You're going to have to hope on touchdown upside. Even though that Mark Andrews was a top 5 tight end in the last 2 years, I feel like you're talking about a guy that's kind of in this no man's land of tight end 6, tight end 7. Just a guy that you're really going to be relying on touchdowns, which is going to be sometimes a frustrating thing for Mark Andrews. Lamar Jackson was the leading rusher, 86 yards. Tyson Williams, you had 9 rushes for 65 yards. Had that really nice 35-yard run. You're just going to have to understand that this is going to be probably the Tyson Williams show in the beginning. But Latavius Murray did have 10 rushes for 28 yards and was used more down the road. As I said previously, when the Gus Edwards injury happened, I said Tyson early, Latavius late. That was kind of my thing. This may actually be Latavius quicker than I expected. I thought this was going to be a 15-20 carry game by Tyson, and then maybe a 5-6 carry by Latavius, but it's about a 50-50 split right now, which is not a bad split. It just, you have to understand Lamar is the RB1 in this team, so that kind of, I mean, it pushes everyone down. You're going to have these, it's going to be a frustrating match. You're going to have these games, it's an RBBC, so you're going to have maybe flex plays out of this game. Raiders, Jacobs only had 10 rushes, but the team didn't really have many rushes. They had 21 rushes. Drake had 6. Carr had 4. So if you take away Carr and Mariota, who had a rush for 31 yards, you basically had Jacobs had 2/3 of the carries, and Drake had 1/3 of the carries. And Drake had 6 rushes for 11 yards, 1.8 average. Jacobs actually looked decent. I mean, he had two targets as well, so 12. He had 2 touchdowns. This is one of those things that I thought Jacobs looked decent against the Baltimore defense that is normally good against the rush. So I think that he got lucky, bailed out with the touchdowns. He's going to have more yards here in the future, of course, and less touchdowns. You're not going to have 10 rushes and 2 touchdowns. Overall, 16 fantasy points. I think that's a little high for what you're going to try to expect from him. I think Jacobs is going to be an RB2 this year. So this was kind of like an RB. You probably, I don't know what he had finished on the week, but you're probably looking at maybe a sneak into an RB1 week with those 2 touchdowns. Maybe he's still an RB2, a high-end RB2 this week, but I see him more as that middle road RB2. That's what you're going to kind of expect. And the Raiders are going to use the run a lot more. This game, they targeted Waller 19 times. Like, geez, 19 times. 10 catches, 105 yards, touchdown. It's frustrating for any Bryan Edwards or any Henry Ruggs or anybody else that if you're a fan of any other weapons in the passing game. But truly, it is the Darren Waller show. 19 targets of the 56 attempts. You're looking at a third of the pie going to Waller. Bryan Edwards did show on late, but he was on really late. 4 catches, 81 yards, and an inch away from a touchdown. Henry Renfrow? Yeah. What? Hunter Renfrow. Why was it Henry? Hunter Renfrow, again, had 6 for 70. Drake had 5 for 59 through the air, so he had some targets through the air. And Henry Ruggs, 2 for 46. Zay Jones, 2 for 46. Man, Henry Ruggs is disappointing. He really is disappointing. I expected a little bit more out of Henry Ruggs, and I'm just getting these kind of John Ross-ish vibes. I feel like when he was even coming out of Alabama, I was like, yeah, he feels like a better John Ross. And I feel like I'm getting a slightly, maybe even worse John Ross, where a guy that super fast, but he just, oh my goodness, he's got this basketball skill and everything like that. And I feel like he just either drops the ball or he's not reading defenses. There's a lot of times where there's man coverage and he's running a zone route or it's zone coverage and he's running into the zone instead of dropping in between zones. Like, these are things that as even a high school football player, I understand this, and I understand the NFL is a lot more complex, but you'd have to understand, you guys see, zone versus man is a pretty simplistic routes for an NFL player to start understanding. I understand if it happens once or twice, but it seems it happens way too much with Henry Ruggs. He's got to get to the intellectual part of the game. And it's why they keep throwing the ball to the Hunter Renfrows of the game. And it's why even Zay Jones gets more of some play in there. And they just, heck, Willie Snead got a target. It's like they're throwing a bunch of players in there. And right now, it's Waller. It's no one else in the receiving game. I'm just going to wait. So, we're going to do some buys of week 1. So, oh, I hit the camera there. Buys of week 2. So, we're going to do some who are we looking at in a perfect starting lineup. We're going to do buys of week 2 here. Then we're going to do who I think are to sell or not, who I think is going to be having a rough week 2. Right off the bat, I think Rodgers is going to have a comeback game next week. He's against the Lions. And to match that, I believe that Robert Tonyan will be the tight end start of the week. I'm not a huge Tonyan fan, but I think that this is going to be a really good game for him. I understand that they did a little bit against Kittle, but I think the Lions are going to struggle. I think I would say start of the week of Davonte Adams, but you can't really start of the week because he's amazing already as it is. And they just lost their cornerback. So I think that Robert Tonyan, Davonte Adams, I think this is going to be a high-scoring game. You're going to look at probably 3-4 touchdowns out of Rodgers. He's going to be coming back. Herbert versus Dallas. Again, Dallas's defense was better, but, I mean, against Tom Brady, they still let up a ton of passing. And you have Keenan Allen, you have Mike Williams, Guyton, whoever else Eckler. Like, you're going to have a bunch of weapons, and I think Herbert is going to have a really good comeback second week. Washington's a really good defense, and it makes sense how he struggled week 1. James Conner, yes. James Conner. Everyone's going to be talking about Kyler Murray, and I think Kyler Murray could easily steal this rushing touchdown. But I think James Conner is going to be my kind of boring RB2 of the week. Yeah, 60, 70 yards, touchdown. He's going to split some time with Chase Edmonds, but I think that you're going to get the power back of those two, which I believe is James Conner. And you watch what Joe Mixon did to the Minnesota defense, and I still think that the Minnesota defense is going to struggle against the run. I am a Minnesota fan. I bleed purple, but I still have to be realistic at what I see. The next one is Nadia Harris. He pretty much played every single snap, and against the Raiders, they let up 2 touchdowns, one to Latavius, one to Tyson Williams, and I could easily see Najee really powering through this. You see these Pittsburgh games and Raiders. It's gonna be black and yellow. It's gonna be blood. It's gonna be the power run games. I believe in this game. I think Josh Jacobs is gonna actually have a decent yardage game too. But I think Najee Harris is gonna have a really good second game, and you're gonna start going, wow, that's why we picked him 101. Cortland Sutton versus the Jaguars. The Jaguars just got demolished by the Houston Texans and Tyrod Taylor. And so who did they get? They get Teddy B and Mr. Cortland Sutton. Cortland Sutton, I think, looked good on the field. He just didn't get the targets. He didn't get the yards. He only had a catch. No Jerry Jeudy, or else Jerry Jeudy would be my start here. Unfortunately, Jerry Jeudy, high ankle sprain, will be gone for half the season and is droppable in all redraft leagues. Jacoby Miners is the next one against the Jets. Jacoby Miners, I think, is the true #1 in that offense. And Mac Jones against the Jets. The Jets seemed to let up a bunch of different yards to the Carolina receivers. You saw that with Robbie Anderson's big touchdown. You saw some good receiving out of DJ Moore. And, of course, the true wide receiver one of Carolina, Christian McCaffrey. I think that this could easily be a really good game out of Jacoby Miners, who does a lot of underneath stuff. It's their 50-50 bet. Do you think it's Aguilar or do you think it's Jacoby Miners? This week, I think it's going to be Jacoby Miners. And, of course, tight end, I did say Tanyan versus the Lions. I do think Kyle Pitts is going to have a better second week. But you know what? That's just me. Going back into the well, I don't know. They do... where does Atlanta play? I think Atlanta plays... Oh, Atlanta plays the Buccaneers. And the Buccaneers did let up some plays through Blake Jarwin and Dalton Schultz. So I think a good 70, 80 yards out of Kyle Pitts here. The Falcons are in danger zone. They really are. I'm really worried about the Falcons because they showed piss poorly against the Eagles. And Eagles are not a great defense. Or at least we don't think so. And so that is a really, really kind of danger sign. And the Buccaneers defense is actually pretty good. But they did lose a lot of corners they're basically pretty much every safety. We'll see how much, if they're back on the field or not, or see if they're back on the field or not. So that is my review. The end of week 1, beginning of week 2. Let me know your start sit questions below. Peace out. We'll see you tomorrow.